We have a demo here that the author intended on extending to other demos within the chapter, and because of that, we'll notice something particular about what he's done using protected mode. So let's have a look at this. We have the usual stuff at the top, and starting down near the bottom, we also have where we override start and the other usual things that you're used to seeing. Notice that this demo extends application, but in turn what's going to happen is there'll be other demos that extend it, and as a result he's made these first two things protected rather than private. And recall what that's going to do. That means they're private as far as the rest of the world is concerned, but they're going to be public within classes that inherit from this. So when we extend this demo to other demos, we're going to have access to this text object right here and to this class that we make up called getPane. GetPane is going to return a border pane that can be used then. So this is actually the button demo, and why don't we go ahead and run it first and then do an analysis of how the code makes it do what happens. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to run it here. So what we get here is a couple of buttons on the bottom. They have the labels that we're used to putting on buttons, but there's also a graphic that goes along for the ride representing the left click motion and the right motion. And the text that's displayed up here is going to move around left and right as we click the button. So let's just demonstrate that. If I click the left button, it goes this way. If I click the right button, it goes this way. So let's have a look at the code now and see how it does what it does. Well, first of all, the buttons that you saw were in their own pane, and that pane was an HBox. And we designed that as you see here. We created a pane for the buttons that was an HBox pane with a gap of 20, a horizontal gap of 20. We then created our left button, but when we created it, notice that we didn't just give it a string. There's a comma here, so we used the constructor for the button that also allows us to put a graphic in with it, and the graphic was an image view of something from our images folder, namely a left GIF. It was that little left pointing arrow that you saw on the button. And then the right button, same story there. We're not just going to put the label right on it, but we're also going to associate a small picture called right.gif, which is a little arrow that points the other way, as you saw. We then take our pane for the buttons. Remember, this is an H pane now, and we add the children in order left and then right. So that means the button on the left button will be the one furthest to the left, and the right button will be to the right of that and also furthest to the right, because there are only two buttons. We set the alignment in this pane to center, so the two buttons will be centered there. And then we use the set style to set the border color to green. In turn then, we create a border pane, and we're going to put the pane for buttons in the bottom section of the border pane, as you see in this line. And then we're going to create a pane for the text, and it's going to be of class pane. And we will add our text to it, and then we will do a set center on that pane. So now the text is in the middle of our pane initially. And next we set up listeners for the buttons. So button left dot set on action, and again the lambda notation that we've now explained many times. And then in there we do a text dot set x of text dot get x minus 10. In other words, we're going to take the current x coordinate and decrease it by 10 for the text. And if the button right was pushed instead, then the set on action for it will instead add 10 to the current x value. So we're only affecting the x value of the text. It can only move left and right. It won't move up and down as a result. So the y coordinate stays fixed based on what you see way back here. Its initial position was 50-50. So the 50 in terms of its vertical positioning isn't going to change, but the horizontal positioning as we push the buttons in this blue section is going to change the x value by plus or minus 10 for each click. So the rest of the code you're familiar with, we don't need to look at it. Now let's go ahead then and rerun the demo again. So again, there it is at location 50 over, 50 down. That's its starting point. This would put it at 40, 30, 20, 10, and then 0. We can actually make it go negative because there isn't any checks and balances on that value. And I guess that concludes this demo.